The Bears.
Good evening. Welcome to the forum, LFC Daytrippers forum. Formerly the Monday Club and all sorts of other names. Phil, can you remember?
There was the Monday Club, the Tuesday Club. There was the LFC Daytrippers pod. There was the Open Atoms. And there was many other names that used to be called things that we don't remember anymore.
Well, we've called it the forum because we're going to talk about 4 topics in this forum setting. So tonight, I'm your host, Andy. I'm joined by Davo. How are you tonight, Davo?
Did you say
good,
Dandy?
Andy, yeah, good.
No, shut up. You said you didn't want to host because you're too drunk. Keep quiet.
Sorry.
Davo, how are you, pal? You good?
Yeah, good, Andy. Yeah, good to be back on.
Good to be back on. Nice setup, by the way.
Look, Gav had to talk me through it. Very technophobe me, so Gav had to talk me through. But all good now, I think. Yeah,
you've got good lighting in the room. I think it brings out your best features.
Thanks. I was working on that.
Phil, how are you, pal?
I'm just looking at Davo's head. I haven't really copped. He actually looks like a Ken doll I was going to buy for my daughter today. So it's same hair. It's looking well. And a beard as well. It's looking well. I'm great, Andy. I'm great. Me and the unicorns are great. Yeah, they're fantastic. I see all the lads getting excited about the Spurs winning tonight.
I can't see that shit.
Can you not? But yeah, so I'm great, Andy. I can't wait to talk about the space, the moon, water on the moon, and various other things that we agreed to talk about earlier on.
Yeah, Neilo, you're back. It's great to see you.
It's good to see you too, Andy.
You've got
particularly you.
You've got your setup all sorted. Your sound is great. Your lighting is much better, and you've a good topic this week.
Yeah. Well, it's a fantastic topic. I'd say it's the best out of a lot of them. But that's why you're leaving it the last one.
True. Right. Well, we've 4 topics tonight. We're going to talk about the importance of a good goalkeeper. Not just specifically about Alisson, but and specifically about his strengths, but what a good goalkeeper can do for the rest of the team. We're going to talk about managers must fail first. Phil, is that right? Do successful managers normally fail first, or do they not fail? We'll get into it. Neilo wants to talk about the slow meandering this generation of football.
No, the slow meandering. Deathly disintegration of modern football.
Right, fair enough. And I'm going to talk about the lack of expression, players with a lack of expression in modern football. It's based on a tweet put out by Bear Camp there during the week. But if you're wondering why we're all full of drink and it's Monday, it is a bank holiday in Ireland, so it's allowed. Phil took that out of the lap dancing club last night. No.
Oh, come here, look, the unicorn has a cock. Phil, put it sideways. No, that's its tail, man.
Right.
Sorry.
Are you all right, Phil?
Neilo, you are tapped.
I'm having a great time. Do
unicorns have cocks? Have you ever thought about that?
I'm just having a great time, Andy. It's great. It's Bank Holiday Monday. We've got work tomorrow, and it's like everything when you're and it's Bank Holiday Monday. You're just ignoring that tomorrow's Tuesday. So that's it. It's all good.
Fuck Tuesday, man.
How do you feel about it being the very, very last time the hour goes back?
I have to say now, for me, it's always been. I'm annoyed about this because there should really be Dublin time. Andy, we had almost had a 15-minute segment on a podcast about 3 years ago about this when it came to transfer deadline day. Dublin time used to exist up until 1952, and it was dropped then, right? So it's about time we get back to just being different, because they were worried about Belfast and all that. That's not part of Ireland. It's not part of Ireland. It's not part of the EU. Don't care about it. It's all about the EU. We're Europeans, and we're going with the European way. I'd say we just set ourselves to German time. I think like it's the slow.
Listen, if things had gone differently in the past, we could be all on German time.
Yeah.
Is that official? This is the last ever time it's changing?
Yeah, next year we'll be an hour ahead or behind something, a different time than London.
So all the farmers are going to be out in the dark next year.
That mattered in 1872. It doesn't matter now. I much prefer having an extra hour in the evening time when it's a bit of brightness and you're not worried about being jumped on the way home from work. Like, let's be honest about it. Like this, it's ridiculous now. I don't have cows. Don't have to milk them in the morning. Doesn't really bother me. It's bright when I go to work at 8 o'clock, but it's dark when I leave at 4 o'clolock. Load me.
Yeah, but today felt like the longest day ever. Oh, yesterday. I don't know what was happening. It was like someone added another 7 hours onto it. It was horrible.
Yeah. And
probably because I had an amazing hangover as well. It was one time I was actually enjoying it. At one stage it was that bad.
So less chance of getting hopped on your way home from work, Phil, and less chances of seeing the Banshee.
Not much less chances of seeing the Banshee. It's the most important thing.
Fuck that. I mean, I don't know if anyone in the
not bring my ex-wife into this, for fuck's sake.
If anyone in the comments is ever seen the Banshee, throw your comments our way. But
anyone in the comments who's seen the Banshee won't be in the comments. But if you've heard the Banshee, then there's more chance of hearing the Banshee than seeing it.
My uncle used to say that to me when I was going to sleep.
Right. Speaking.
You put me mad, sleep, me dad, come in. The Banshee is outside.
Anyway, speaking of the Banshee, Adrian didn't start this weekend.
He could have been saying the ban on tea. I'm not too sure.
And Alisson was back between the sticks. It was a surprise sprung on us early Saturday morning by our very own Grizz. And I thought it was a big joke. I couldn't believe it that Alisson was back. I know you're supposed to train him, but fuck me, I was delighted. I would say the team were even more delighted. What that goalkeeper does, not just his ability, not just how he commands his area and his qualities with the ball at his feet and his shot stopping. It's what he enables the team to do, and how he enables them to play in front of him, and the confidence he gives them. Davo, this is your topic. Take us away. Tell us how important Alisson is. Tell us how important a good goalkeeper is.
Yeah, look, I suppose it's not a revelation or anything, this topic, and it's been a week really of bad news injury wise. Obviously we got the 2 wins, which is great, but to get him back was such a big boost. I know we were discussing what topics we were going to do, so I said I better do a bit of reading. I didn't know whether to do a bit of research, but I did a bit of research. Like he's 71 league games for Liverpool and 35 clean sheets. That's really good. It's excellent. And like when you flip that to Adrian, he played 11 games last year. He only kept 2. Now listen, you couldn't really fault him as regards. Look, he played 11, we won 11, but we all know how good we were last season. And even with Alisson, like I read today, something mad. Like there was a fall off, obviously, from all the team after we won the league when we came back from lockdown. Before lockdown, Alisson's save percentage was up at 80%, and I know Phil has been on an awful lot about goalkeeper save percentages, etc., and what's acceptable and all that. And 80% is well above the norm. Well above the norm. So like it's after dropping down a little bit, obviously, with this season and all that. I think he's around 72% save percentage now. Adrian is as low as 42, 43. So just a real. I know we don't really like doing stats and throwing numbers about and stuff like that, but I think when you read into them numbers, you can just see that's even without people just seeing it in general. His calm and influence and how important he is at the back. I think we can all see the gap from when he plays and when he doesn't play, you know.
Yeah, the calm influence is unbelievable. Phil, as the next goalkeeper, well, not so long ago, you're playing over 40s or 35s.
Ended up in hospital.
Knee
operations, back operations, the whole lot since then.
Unicorn in the gaff.
So how did you bring calmness to your defence? You know, is it something that all goalkeepers are conscious of? Is it something
Phil's never brought calmness to He just left us with 6 personalities in the dresser.
I live in that zone between calmness and complete chaos. It's just like sort of organised chaos, Andy. Goalkeepers are very different, but for me with Alisson, and I said this about Adrian coming in, and why I'm never losing the shit about Adrian, because essentially he's the Mignolet level goalkeeper, and that's what he is. He's a second goalkeeper. He's your backup goalkeeper. That's all he's going to be, right? But you look at Alisson and you look at what he does, and it's not so much. It's those moments, those different moments where when the ball gets played back to him. I know he nearly gets caught on one at the weekend, but when the ball gets played back to him, you're not shitting yourself. When the ball was played back to Mignolet, we were shitting ourselves because he was either going to do the poof kick, which went like 40 yards away. When the ball
did that go again?
I dare anyone to go back and watch a Mignolet kick out. Normally you only hear that lovely crack where it goes poof, and the ball just takes off and sails down the pitch.
Or you hit someone with a cracking haymaker that makes that noise.
With Mignolet, he has a different sound of kick. It's like it's like he's deflating his foot as he kicks the ball. It's like the air goes out of his foot rather than the ball. Anyway,
how does Alisson's kick sound?
Alisson's kick is like it's like clean. You know when you hit a golf strikes clean, you hear that thing. And it's right. There's just one sound.
Just out of the sweet spot.
Yeah, Mignolet's had the delayed sound. It's like a plane trying to break the sound barrier but can't. You know, it's just weird. But I go back to Alisson.
It's resistance is the problem there, Phil. It's not so much it's resistance is probably.
It's wind resistance. When you go back, you look at him with the ball at his feet, and you're never worried. You always know that he has a picture of the pitch in front of him. And for me, this is the big difference between elite goalkeepers and not elite goalkeepers, right? They always have a picture of the pitch in front of them. So they know where their next ball is going to. If they catch the ball, they know where the throw is going to. When they're talking to their defenders, they know where to organise the defenders in. And also the biggest bit, and it's never, ever, 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 ever respected enough, they never have to make many saves. I know Davo's gone on about save percentages, but you look at Alisson, how many times is he just standing behind the ball, catching it? Not spreading himself, not having to dive, not having to move, not having to do things. When you think of Adrian, it's all about these mistakes he makes off dives, or he's having to spread himself, or he's doing something. Whereas with Alisson, it's always just that he just seems to be standing in the right place, so he never has to dive. And I know the older I got, the longer I played in nets and stuff like that. And Davo, you know the same. The more experience you got, the more you're able to read the player, more you're able to read the defense, and the better position you should be able to get. So when it came to Adrian, I was like, he hasn't developed on that much as a Liverpool goalkeeper.
What the fuck is that?
I think it's gone, is it?
No,
I think it's gone.
I just muted Neilo.
All right. There you go.
What are you doing, pal?
I didn't do it. I was just having a drink here. I didn't do fucking anything.
He's in the pizza shop there. He's starting off, Apache Pizza said it through a toaster.
I didn't do anything.
Yeah, genuinely.
Neilo, I was asking there. Oh, go on. Sorry, you're not finished.
No, do you know what I'd like to say about the goalkeeping thing? Is I don't think any of that recent success would have happened without Alisson. Without signing him. I kind of disregard Van Dijk and everybody else we signed. I think he's the cornerstone of it all. I honestly really don't think it would have happened without him. We had gotten a goalkeeper. I don't know who else were we linked with at the time. I can't remember.
For me, he's not the cornerstone. He's the doorbell.
Sorry, then he's the coin stone. You know when you build an arch and the stone in the middle and it all rests against. That's him.
That's it. So it's like every bit had to get
like a Romanesque arch.
And then you just need that bit at the top just to hold it all together. So the pressure just keeps it there. Once you take that away, the rest of it becomes weak. And it's like when you go with Van Dijk being out of the defense, it's just weaker. I don't care what anyone says. I know Van Bijlo had a great game in the whole lot, but it's just weaker. It just looks.
I reckon you can possibly mitigate some of Van Dijk's absence with other players coming in and playing a little bit differently, so you can mitigate it. But I think about Alisson now, I don't think you can mitigate for him and what he brings. I think he's actually irreplaceable, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think absolutely spot on, Neilo.
Andy, I just want to flip it back to Davo on this because it is his topic, right? The big question at the moment is Adrian a good enough second choice or second? If you're going to replace Adrian, how would you do it at Davo? How would you go and replace him, given that he's not going to play much, right?
Yeah, I don't. Me and you kind of disagree on this, Phil. We have done. I know you think he's perfectly adequate number 2, and you'd kind of compare him to the levels of Willy Caballero and other keepers like that. I personally don't think he's good enough. I think he causes it like this when he plays the defense side and they're not comfortable, and I think you've got to have someone that they're comfortable in. If you're asked how I would go about replacing him, I'd look to replace him with somebody experienced. I know he is experienced as well, but he's not good enough. I'd like to. I personally, I know you don't like him. I would personally like someone like Ben Foster, maybe an experienced goalkeeper. I'm not talking about. Listen, we have all. There's this thing being made up about. The second choice goalkeeper has to be good enough to the way that we want to play out from the back and stuff like that. Adrian's not good enough to do that. He's not good enough to do that. He's not good enough with the ball at his feet. So this thing by saying that Adrian is good or a veto on some keepers because listen, they're not going to be good enough with their feet to play out in the back. Adrian's not good enough to play out in the back, so I'd rather just sign somebody that can fucking save a few shots. That'd be my thing, because he can't. He's not able to, and he's poor, and he's not good enough. So that would be my thing. I'd go for someone who's experienced, who would be renowned as a good shot stopper.
I think Phil's point on it is, would you rather a number 10? Not a number 10, a 10 out of 10 number 1, and say a 4 out of 10 number 2, or else 2 kind of 6s that can compete against each other. I mean, that's it. Are you? Phil is literally in his fridge.
Literally in the fridge. Brilliant.
But
just when you can't see the fucking people's feet in the fridge.
That's where I tend to disagree with that concept myself. We don't have to have 2 numbers, 6 out of 10 goalkeepers. You can have a 10 out of 10 keeper like Alisson, and then a really, really hungry 8 out of 10 who has the confidence to try and challenge Alisson.
I think it's very, very hard for keepers like of Adrian's standard, who got as where he did in the game, to come in and play for Liverpool under the spotlight, like playing it for Liverpool, and particularly for Liverpool, say, and other teams that are in the upper echelons under the spotlight, is a different proposition than playing for West Ham or playing for, I don't know, Real Sociedad or whoever the fuck, or Rennes or Lyon or whoever the fuck. I think playing for Liverpool under the spotlight, where every single morsel of your game is magnified. I think it's a different proposition.
Fridge, do you know that?
What?
I'm still laughing at your fridge opening.
Jesus, I went fucking deep there.
I know.
But I start laughing at Phil's fucking milk.
Milk and a pancake mix there for the morning as well. So
is it pancake Tuesday?
I thought you were going to pour a bowl of Rice Krispies there.
I was close to it.
Is it pancake Tuesday tomorrow, Phil?
There's a part of me that thinks, though, and I was sort of half messing about this, but signing Alisson's brother, wouldn't that be a great idea? Because he's like a first-team goalkeeper in Brazil.
That made me laugh.
Yeah, but like honestly, going back to yours, Shane, I agree with you about the experience part, right? But it's very hard to get an experienced number 2 in who isn't either decrepit and can't dive around, or is young enough that they want to challenge Alisson. I don't think anyone that wants to challenge Alisson will come into the club at this stage, because they'll get a number 1 position at another club. And that's genuine opinion.
I agree with you. And you look, if you look at the way a lot's been made of the Man United goalkeeping situation. Your man only went back there from Sheffield United because he fancied his chances of getting the Gea there, the Henderson.
Yeah.
No,
the $100,000 a week thing,
yeah, exactly. I think they trade him. They're on. I think they trade him. They're paying him $500,000 a week or something like that. So he obviously went back there because he fancies his chances. Or when he sat down with Solskjaer, he said, "Yeah, I'm willing to come back because I fancy my chances of getting this fella out of here." That means that knock on them was Romero threw his toys out of pram. He wanted to go to Everton on deadline day. That didn't happen. So I actually think Romero's probably one of the best around. Kind of second stroke tour choice keepers, but I agree with you, Phil. It is very hard to get someone in knowing that they're not going to play. But Adrian isn't the one anyway. For me, I think he's out of contract at the end of the season, and I doubt he's going to be signing another one. So we will have to look to.
There must be football in the younger ranks then as well. You know what I mean? Sure, obviously just football there. Well, otherwise, you give one of the kids a go, wouldn't you?
Like, we sign 19 goalkeepers every summer. We signed your man Pitalorgo from...
well, he's training with the first team regular at the minute, which would be a good sign, I'd imagine, because he's only 17.
Who's the other fella? Remember the Polish fella? We signed 19 Polish goalkeepers. I think we have every Polish goalkeeper.
Queeveen Kelleher, is that the young lad?
They're all out on loan, them Polish keepers.
Camel
Grabara. He's gone out on loan.
And the young fella just scored a penalty a few years ago. Remember him?
He's gone now. Shamal George went off somewhere else. But the
what a name, by the way.
I look at it and say,
what a name.
Yeah, I do get the idea of signing young football. But look, you look at Arsenal. They had your man Martinez, who's playing for Aston Villa at the moment, and I said at the time, and I'll stick by it, he's a better goalkeeper than Leno. Davo, when we were talking about signing Alisson, do you remember how many times I said that Leno should not be considered because the fella has a massive rick in him when it comes to big games, and that's been proven true in England. He always makes a mistake in a big match. He's a grand goalkeeper for 75% of your matches, right? But he's never going to be a goalkeeper that's going to win you trophies.
Yeah.
And that's the big difference that Alisson makes to this team, is that he's a goalkeeper that wins your trophies because he always comes through in the big moments. Rajiv, I'm not Phil, LFC 83. I'm just sort of, I've seen a question that came in there. But yeah, I think Martinez was a smashing goalkeeper for Arsenal. It was back up there in the comments earlier on. I don't know. I don't think it's a simple answer, but if you can keep Alisson fit for 38 of your 50 games a season, that's not good enough. We want to keep him fit for 45 of our 58 games a season, and let whoever's, like, if Adrian is playing the League Cup and the FA Cup, no one gives a shite. No one gives a bollocks. Do you know what I mean? We're not having this conversation.
Right, lads, we talked about the canvas and what he brings to the team. But what does... Holy shit, Neil, what's going on?
Sorry. Just got a call there. Just got a fucking phone call, like, Jesus Christ. It's nothing important, doesn't matter.
Tell me about...
Dog is after getting hit by a taxi.
Davo, tell me about the enjoyment that Alisson brings to your viewing experience as a fan. I mean, I know I was extremely excited when I seen Alisson when Alisson was back. I couldn't believe it. It was a lovely surprise. I think I'd be more delighted, I think, with him coming back than when Van Dijk comes back. Do you know what I mean? I think it's just he just makes you feel happier watching the match, doesn't he? Yeah, he just makes you feel way more confident.
I was delighted he was coming back, but there was a part of me where I was saying, geez, I hope they haven't rushed him back, because like Neil was saying there earlier, Klopp mentioned it in his press conference. He missed, I think Klopp said he's missed less than 3 weeks and it felt like 15 games. So that only shows you the drag that Adrian is even putting on the manager. Not that he's going to come out and say that, because he can't.
It felt like that for a fan, didn't it?
Yeah, it felt like that for a fan. Like Phil alluded to it earlier, the ball goes back to his feet. You're not worried. He had one little small aberration there that he got away with the weekend. But I don't think the way Sheffield United were very impressive the weekend, and the way they set up, I don't think we win that game without Alisson playing. And I'm not talking about a shot stopper. I'm talking about the ball going back to his feet. He's always the option there. He's always an option to start the attack, because he's basically starting the attack, because they were happy for Liverpool to have the ball. When Liverpool got close to halfway line, they'd come and press in 3s and 4s and 5s. So he was the option. And like I alluded to earlier, Adrian with the ball at his feet isn't good enough. So, yeah, look, it's a great bonus. And the questions being going around about winning trophies and stuff like that, can we win them without Van Dijk? But if you can guarantee Alisson stays fit from now till the end of the season, I think we've got a great chance in all the competitions we're in.
Yeah. Well, we wrap that topic up there. Phil, we were talking about this during the week. More admiration for Klopp coming up, more praise for our gaffer. But you raised the point about managers, world-class managers, and do they need to fail first? And I think you kind of said that Klopp is the enemy here, but he was the one that failed first, and you think it's benefited his success. Tell us more about that.
Okay, so bizarrely, I did a bit of research of this, right? It was one of those moments where you sort of start thinking of a concept and a theory to yourself, trying to figure out, is there any logic behind this, or you're just making it up based on the incidents of one? Essentially, I was trying to think, we have Klopp. He's been such a good fit for Liverpool. He was such a good fit for Borussia Dortmund. How did he end up here, right? Because if you look at the evolution of the great managers over the last 20 years, it's very much like society. It's almost instant fame, instant recognition, and instant success. And they're gone as quick as they appear, right? So then I started thinking, right, of the truly great coaches, because I have this, I have this bugbear about Guardiola. I don't see him as a truly great coach. I think he's a very good attacking coach, but I don't think he's a truly great coach. So I'm talking about the ones like Ancelotti, Klopp, Lippi, Van Gaal. I was even then, and then I started to try, can you use this to have a look at what's going on in front, and who potentially could be earmarked as somebody in that sort of line of succession to bring them through. So, Andy, for me, I looked at Klopp, and Klopp's record is that he goes from Mainz from 2001 to 2008, right, as the manager of Mainz. And in that time, he finally gets them promoted to the Bundesliga, gets them into the UEFA Cup, and then they get relegated. And he fails at getting them back out of the second division of the Bundesliga and back up to the Bundesliga. It leaves and goes to Borussia Dortmund, and we know what happens after that, right? So initially I was there going, well, then I started thinking of Rafa. Rafa was at Tenerife, and he was with a number of clubs before he went to Valencia, and he failed at those clubs.
One of us on the Veronica Strip. What a spot.
But they're very much the aberrations to the norm. So if you look at Mourinho, he goes to Mourinho, that's a new one for the Brian Cares. But he goes to Benfica initially. People forget that he managed Benfica for a number of months before he leaves Benfica, gets sacked from Benfica, but had them into second place and they were heading for the title at that stage. He goes to YNWA Leira, or whoever it is, in Portugal, and takes them from being a bottom of the table side to finishing above Porto. Then gets the Porto job, and everything from there on is history. Wins league titles, wins with leagues with Porto, wins Champions League with Porto, goes to England, does everything it does. You look at Van Gaal, comes in, just does the job straight away. And I was going, if you go back further, it's the same. So I'm trying to figure out, is it possible that Klopp is just some type of freak and that we were just blessed to get him? And at this stage, I'm at the point where I think he's a complete freak.
Well, come here. Would you not think that anybody who is at the very pinnacle of their sport, regardless of who they are or regardless of what the sport is, in relation to the general public, is a freak? Michael Jordan, for example, is a freak. Messi is a freak. You know what I'm saying? Ronaldinho is a freak. Kanye West is a dickhead. That's a different thing. I listened to him and Joe Rogan today. Holy shit, what a penis.
Well, how I could listen.
Sorry, I digressed.
I could listen to Klopp all day long. I think pretty much everything that comes out of his mouth is an absolute nugget. You know, I mean, the people around him, how he enables squads, how he gets the best out of absolutely everyone who comes into contact with him, and he talks about things like, you know, it's very simple concepts in life. How when he walks into the room, he wants people to feel happier than they did before he walked into the room, and not the opposite way. Because quite often a manager can walk into the room and whether it's the fear or whether it's whatever it is, can make people, can really affect players' performances, can really affect players' confidences. And I think that's where Mourinho suffers. I mean, if you don't work under Mourinho, you're kind of just fucked out. You're fucked under the bus. He'll slot you in the media. Whereas Klopp pretty much gets better out of absolutely everyone that he manages. And one of the things I heard him saying recently is more often than not, he learns more from failures. He learns more from losses than he does from wins. And what he took from the Villa game, whoever was interviewing was Adam, you know, about trying to find negatives in that Villa game. And Klopp just kept saying there was positives in there too. There was lots of things we can learn from him. And I think that's what shows how much not a freak Klopp is, but it shows how special he is and how incredible his leadership skills are, that he's able to find positives in absolutely every situation. So even his early day in Mainz and getting them relegated and losing in finals, he's come back stronger every time, and so have the players around him.
I think there's an old adage there, isn't there? Triumph through adversity. Did you ever hear that? I think that doesn't mean getting through your adversity. It means you can only really triumph if you have had some adversity. So you only gain experience through failure as well, don't you? I mean, how do you know how important it is to win unless you've fucking lost?
Well, I think I'm right in saying when he was at Mainz, they missed out on the last day of the season or something, getting promotion to the Bundesliga, and he stayed around for the following year, and they did get up. So if you fast forward that to the situation we were in when we went so close with Man City, getting the points and missing out on the last day of the season, I think the experience that he got from that with Moyens, missing out on the last day, or was very close to the last day of the season, they missed out on promotion. He hung around the following year and they won the league, they got promoted the following year. So if you fast forward that to where we were with City, I think, like you were saying, he's a freak, Phil, but he's kind of the perfect freak for us. For the club we're in, like Andy said, the nuggets he comes out with, he seems to be aligned kind of politically and stuff like that. He makes the right noises and all that, and I just think he really is the perfect fit.
Well, see, for me,
do you not hear sometimes and just go, please leave it out?
No, Neil, this is part of it. Hang on a second.
I think he's preaching to the converted sometimes. He knows his audience and he's saying what they want to hear. Listen, I'm not saying, I'm not detracting from him as a coach or anything like that. I mean, what he projects in the media, that's his own fucking business. But do you not hear it sometimes? You just go, come on.
Well, Neilo, they do 20 different press conferences a week and get asked the same question 40 different ways, and he has to not lose the rag. And imagine us sitting there getting asked the same question 25 different ways. You'd end up just going to your man, listen, mate, I answered that a minute ago, now fuck off. But
he just have on a script when you laminate.
But he doesn't. Like he's well able. He has them kind of in the palm of his hand. And look at all that is easier when you're winning.
I suppose when you think about it, Mourinho had them in the palm of his hand at the beginning, didn't he? And that didn't last very long. And Klopp still has them in
I'm seeing some of the comments about Van Gaal and Mourinho are dinosaur tactics and they can only play one way. And if somebody goes back and watches Klopp's Mainz team back in 2002, the whole thing was about pressing and counter pressing. He hasn't changed his philosophy since then. He's adopted and changed. And this to me is probably the bit that when I started looking into the managers and looking into the way they've evolved, the truly great managers, right? They maintain the core of their beliefs, but they learn to be flexible around it, right? So if you look
I'd agree with that completely.
If you look at Ancelotti now, right? His setup is fundamentally still 4-4-2, and he always believed that 4-4-2 was the best system to play, right? But he's prepared to move things around that 4-4-2 system to fit the type of thing that's going on. When you look at when Van Gaal was at his best, he wasn't just playing a strict rigid formation. He was playing different counter-attacking football, pressing, possession football, whatever it was that would achieve a win. Ferguson, the greatest example of this, of Ferguson, is he evolved through the best part of 20 years. But when you look at Ferguson at St Mirren, they win the first division in Scotland. He comes to Aberdeen, wins European trophies, wins league trophies in Scotland. He goes to United. He failed for 6 years in England. Like, you don't get that nowadays. You don't get to fail for 6 years in England nowadays. Right?
No chance.
When we talk about failure, that's his period of failure as a manager. Because when he gets to 1991, from then on, it's just unending success for United until he retires at the end of it. When you look at the Liverpool managers, what Shankly did when he came in was he changed that team and the ethos of the club from being maybe having a go, getting there sometimes, to relentless winning. And what happens is it got improved on by Fagan, by Paisley, until we get to a point of Dalglish. It reaches a zenith, we win a double, and then it tails off and we come off the backside. And this is the first time that we've had a manager, and you can take your raffles and you can stick them up your arses, right? This is the first time that we've had a manager since Kenny Dalglish that has brought us to the pinnacle of not just English football, but European football. And I mean, in a proper way, where we are a truly dominant side, both domestically and internationally. And for me, when I look at Pep Guardiola, has he done it anyway? When somebody thinks of Pep Guardiola, what do they think? They don't think City. They don't think Barcelona. That's it. Davo, that's it. That's all they think is the Barcelona side. And that.
I think what you're saying, Phil, about Pep and Klopp is very, very relevant. I think Pep progressed on a style of football that Cruyff started at Barcelona already, right? That was something that was, let me finish for a minute. It was kind of possession. And I think if you notice now, football has changed generally, in a general sense, since Klopp came to Liverpool and what they did recently and winning all that shit. It's high risk for high reward now, football tends to be. Like the way Liverpool play, the way the fullbacks push on him, he leave it when Van Dijk is there, and whoever's beside him, he'll cover for. He's that good, he'll cover for the centre halves, right? But where 3 years previous, it was possession, which is low risk, high reward. I think the biggest accolade you could give to Klopp is the fact that he's changed football through his personality and through how Liverpool play and how exciting it is. And I think the best managers tend to do that. I mean, like you say about Ferguson, it was 4-4-2 for him, wingers crossing the ball, or whatever the fuck. And before, I don't know who was before Ferguson. Let's say Arsenal before that, it was defence. And the Italian Catenaccio. I think that's what. Listen, it's just a talking point. I don't know.
Possession football these days, it doesn't really work. Okay, the better sides have the majority possession, but you have to be an exceptionally good team to keep the ball for a whole game and create the sort of chances that kind of Liverpool get from forcing errors. Like Liverpool,
that's my point. The high risk, high reward. What Liverpool do, close down like 8 players closing down in their half. Win it back early. You know what I mean? You
look at 90% of the goals. I would say come from either a set piece or a mistake or a forced error in the
transition of play. Like
so you lose the ball in your own half and you can see goals. It's how often you see a goal coming from 50 or 60, 70 passes. It's very, very rare. I mean, I would say it's after a sequence of passes, it's probably only like out of every 100 goals, probably one out of every 100, I would say. And with Liverpool, how often we see goals, like, okay, we keep a lot of possession, but how often we seeing the ball coming out from the back and 3 passes later, it's in the net, like.
Yeah.
Well, I think we've evolved, though, if you think back to the famous Burnley game where we had fucking 80% possession and lost 2-0. I think we've evolved that Klopp is happy with the players he has, that he can do it both ways as regards, look, we'll get after you and counter press and set traps and try to force his mistakes. But if users are just going to sit in on the 18-yard box, right, we'll keep it and we'll happily probe, and we'll find a way eventually. And I think that's the evolution. That's how he's moved on to become one of the greats.
But Davo, can I just like the bit that I sort of want to lead on from is the inevitability is that Klopp won't be here in 20 years' time, right? So how do you use that methodology, or how do you put a methodology in place that allows you to identify the most likely successful successor to Klopp? Because the trouble that teams have always had was transitioning from a truly generational defining manager to the next manager, right? Now, Liverpool,
I would imagine that something for me worrying about that kind of scenario, because I'm sure it's something that we've all thought about. Listen, Klopp's contract's up in 4 years' time or whatever it is. Will he sign another couple of years? The likelihood is he's probably going to go. I'd be a lot more comfortable if the people in the background of the club, the likes of Michael Edwards and them fellas, if they're there, if they can keep that core together with the same ownership, I would be a lot more confident that they would get that decision right. If you go into the bounds of like, we're selling off a piece of the club here, there's other fellas coming in, shareholders, you're diluting things here, everyone has their own idea, they all want a pound of flesh and money out of it. That's when things go fucking haywire and you end up appointing someone that isn't like them, the likes of Michael Edwards would leave. And then you end up going down a road that, listen, it could be like falling off with Souness coming in, falling off all them years ago. You just don't know. But I would be more comfortable if them lads stayed in place.
Yeah, but right. See the English game, Phil. You know the way we're saying about like what Liverpool did with the continuing the boot room shit. Yeah, can you think of another club that did that?
Like had that model of continuous succession,
continuous success, regardless of, I say regardless of who, but it seemed regardless of who was in charge. It obviously wasn't, but I don't think has it happened anywhere else before.
Possibly AC Milan through the 80s and 90s when they had your man, that Italian dude that did
Sacchi, the Capello, wasn't it? I don't know whether you'd say Barcelona with Rijkaard to Guardiola to.
I'm talking about England.
England. All right, okay.
In England, we don't see it like in England, like we did the likes of Ajax and in Italy and in Spain with Barcelona, where the whole youth setup has to play. It's mandatory that the whole youth setup plays the exact same way. I don't even think that's in place at Liverpool. I know Klopp has brought all the youth teams and the senior players together now, but I don't think that's being developed. I don't think the kids are being taught to play that same way. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it's going to be very hard the succession plan for Klopp, because a lot of what Klopp does is down to his personality. I mean, no matter who I said it earlier, no matter who he brings in, he gets them to play levels. He gets them to play better than they believe they can play themselves. And that's
Dav, the one thing about that piece is that it's not just it was Saki, Capello, and then Ancelotti comes in, and Ancelotti was part of Saki's team originally, and it was Capello who sold Ancelotti and brought in Albertini in the AC Milan. So AC Milan had something very similar across the mid 80s into the early 90s and to the late 90s. But when you boil it back to our situation, we're starting off with this is the first one. So the next appointment, and I always go back to this, the next appointment and understanding who comes in is the right one. So if you look at Pep Linders, he's probably the one that's most likely placed in that backroom staff. If you're going to take somebody from inside the club already, that's already imbued in his methods and is around Klopp and seems to have a voice amongst the players to make a step up in the classic Paisley, Fagan, Shankly sort of idea. But at the same time, you look at it and you look at fellas like Nagelsmann, he's at Leipzig now, right? Leipzig. And they're challenging or trying to challenge for league titles. The one that people have missed out on is the Hasenhüttl at Southampton. Everyone thinks he came from nowhere. He was Leipzig manager for 2 years between 16 and 18 and got them to second in the Bundesliga. Got them promoted and got them to second in the Bundesliga. Got them into the Champions League.
Very good manager.
And before that, the clubs he was at before, he achieved something with all the clubs right the way through. And this goes back to my idea that it doesn't necessarily have to be the biggest achievement, but you have to be able to bounce back from disappointment. So when he was at his first club, he ended up getting sacked over a disagreement with the chairman. When Ferguson gets sacked at St Mirren and goes on to Aberdeen, Klopp has the disappointment at Mainz but bounces back. They're not necessarily sackable offences, but they're about periods of growth, and they almost allow you to grow as a manager by being able to evolve and be able to accept change or changing your mechanics or changing your system in a certain way that allows you to become a better manager off the back of that.
When you're just speaking on Hasenhüttl that time, I listened to a couple of things that particularly after that 9-0 game, the Leicester game, there was a lot, the club felt that players were kind of throwing the towel in, and the club arrived down to the training ground seemingly and said to the players, look, this fella is going nowhere. We know what we have here. He's going nowhere. You will be the ones going before he goes, the ones that aren't pulling their weight. And next thing, things start turning, and you look at them now. So, like Southampton obviously knew what they had in them, rather, because it's very easy to pull the trigger after getting a result like that, and for them to stick with him and tell the players in no uncertain terms, listen, he's staying. You will be going, and then they're reaping the rewards there. Very good manager. Yeah.
Right, lads, we'll move on. We're just been talking about the evolution of football and how different managers evolved or are not evolved. But one thing I spotted there the other day was a tweet, and it was a quote from Dennis Bergkamp. He says, "The way players are taught." Sorry,
I'm not getting on that fucking plane.
All right. The way players are taught nowadays, the creativity has gone a little bit. When I watch youth football, you have what I call PlayStation coaches. They've got the controls. The players are just doing what they say, and they're not thinking for themselves. So I know it's a bit of a Yarda comment, right? But I have this gripe, more than any gripe in modern football, but I think it's about the lack of players we see now that can truly express themselves. And I'm talking about players like Ronaldinho. Like, I don't know whether we'll ever see that again, because the stakes are so high in modern football. You know, it's very unforgiving. If a player coming through like Ronaldinho starts doing tricks all over the shop and he makes a mistake, he could be banned forever. You know what I mean? I think with the money involved. So we're seeing less and less of those type of players, I think. And I mean, I look at our own players like Fowler, who used to really kind of do his own thing. And they're not players who just followed orders. A player like Fowler, just get the ball and he's going to score a goal. Barnes is a bit like that. And then outside of Liverpool, players like Zidane, they were just their own players. They were brought into a team. They did what they wanted to do. And then, you know, the likes of Berbatov, Cantona, even like players that were lower down like Letitia. Like, what do you think, lads? I don't know. Is it for the greater good of the game that we're seeing a way bigger focus on pace and power and fitness? Like when you see players like Adama Traore now being touted for 90 million. I mean, is that what our modern Ronaldinhos are? Players that are just fast, strong, cause havoc, and just follow managers' orders, get on the ball and run after it.
I see what you're saying, Andy, but I can see both sides of the argument as well. I think with players, we would probably have one at the minute. It's Messi. He's probably a perfect example. He's just that good. It's weird. I think the rewards, and there's so much at stake now in football with the money at stake. I think that's what you're getting at. Like if you lose or you don't get where you think you should get, the difference is hundreds of millions rather than whereas before it was 1 or 2 million or maybe 10 million or whatever. I mean, finishing to say 5th and finishing 4th, the difference can be over the course. If you want to progress over the next 2 or 3 years, can be hundreds of millions. Yeah. So I think the rewards are so very high, but at the same time, I think if when somebody is that good, I really don't think the likes of, like, I think I could sound like an old man here. We probably sound like old men saying, "Oh, it was better in my day. They were able to play. Can play with more freedom." I think them players will come around again, but I don't know. I mean, there's none. I can't see any coming through at the minute. So maybe you're right. I really, it's a weird one. I don't know. Something you need to.
Yeah, I mean, it could be a recency bias. I'm not saying like there's absolutely some quality players at the moment. Mane, Salah, like, you know, but they're far more direct, and they are
more robotic. Like,
yeah, they are. They're quite robotic, and those players have excelled at Liverpool because of what Klopp has coached them.
Do you think it's to do with how analytical football is nowadays?
I think that I was going to just bring that up, Neil. I think that's what it is. I'm not saying that the coaches going back, like all the ones there, Sakis and that Phil mentioned, weren't tactically good or anything like that. I think now you can see any player in any league in the world and scout probably 10 or 20 games from, like, of any player. So if you have,
you can set up a podcast from your gaff and just analyze football.
Yeah. So if you have a player like a maverick kind of player, like what Andy is describing there, like a maverick player, if you can watch 25 games of them and a game that's coming up, and you have your analytics doing it and all that, you'll find ways to play around him and cause their best player to be a problem for them by taking him out of the game. And I think
you can't say maverick to me without me thinking of Gooseman.
And I just kind of think that's probably how it's gone. The level of coaching and analysis in the game that they can, and the technology at teams' disposal, they're able to pick holes in teams. And if you have a maverick player that's like probably cheats, would have been the same we had when we were playing, like, he's cheating, he won't come back. But if you give him the ball, he'll kill you. Teams can work around that.
Let me say, American football was kind of ahead of soccer football generally in the rewards that are available and how analytical it is. You two are kind of American football fans and experts. How would you say Mavericks?
Phil is the expert.
And would you say Mavericks? There's no Mavericks in American football nowadays.
No,
and this is where
I think that answers the question, does it?
This is where I sort of disagree with Andy's point. I think yes, there's a lot of better coached kids coming through, right? But I think the genuine freaks are the genuine freaks. When people talk about Ronaldinho, I've said this before. To me, there has never been a better footballer to grace this planet than Ronaldinho. A more naturally gifted footballer I've never seen. He's done things even to this day that I can't understand how he's done. Like, if you go back and watch a highlight reel of his thing, you'll see all the shit about Messi, and it's it's amazing cross control, and it's this and it's that, and it's great. And he does a free kick, and it's wow, and look, he plays a pass through 10. Ronaldinho does that, but by backheeling the ball through 27 fellas, right? And while he's fixing
it cuts to him in a hot tub with a load of mats.
Yeah, and drinking a cocktail, right? He scored a goal against Chelsea that went rocketed into the top corner, and he had no backlift. He didn't even put his foot through the ball.
Yeah,
it was stupid, right? Wasn't it? He spent. We all go on about Firmino's no look shots, right? Fucking Ronaldinho has a YouTube channel just dedicated to his no look passes and things. He invented the no look thing. Like, he basically invented the no look anything. He was just. He is just a phenomenon. We talk about Ronaldo, the phenomenon. You talk about, and I'm talking about the Brazilian one, but then you talk about the Portuguese one because he's a phenomenon as well. People talk about Messi. I come back to this, and we've had so many rows about who was the best player. I keep going, show me, there is no better player ever to watch and I'll say this: the best player to ever watch, even nowadays, when he's out of the Peruvian jail, he's back playing football somewhere, right? So, like, he was playing football in jail when he had a wrong passport or something like that. Like, he is the last of the great entertainers. But there will be another. There'll be somebody else who'll come along that's ridiculous. When you think of Suarez is not your coached footballer, even though he's been involved in coached football from an early age, right? You look at the Salah. Salah is a coached footballer, but again, he has that quality that the great footballers don't have. The great footballers do have in every circumstance, is that they do the impossible. They do the things that other footballers can't think of, because you can't coach thinking. You can't coach the speed.
Salah is a perfect fit for the time he's playing in too, isn't he? And the team he's playing in, they just fit so well.
It's a glove stuff, but you look at Ronaldinho, and he is just a freak. He thinks of things that nobody else does, and then when it just doesn't think of it, he executes it. So it's the execution, it's the ability to execute. Yeah, and always through the games, you have the true greats. And I firmly believe when people look back at this game in 20 years, they won't just be talking about Messi and Ronaldo, Cristiano Ronaldo. They'll be looking at Ronaldinho's highlight reel and going, because he's the first that also appears in the 24/7 coverage of football, right? And they'll be going, okay, so Ronaldo and Messi scored 1 billion goals each, and that's amazing. But look what this fella did. Look what he did. Like, none of them do this. They just don't do it. Like, I just love. I would look, and there's one of the few things on YouTube I'd look at for hours and hours a day is just looking at Ronaldinho's play, looking at what he did, looking at the stupid things he does. And it's like, it makes it look stupid because he turned football in. It's what Patrick Mahomes is doing in the NFL now. He turned football at that time into a computer game, because you don't think that you can do in a computer game where bend the ball around this way, or it does a rainbow pass across somebody, or without even thinking. It was like somebody was controlling him. I'll take Bergkamp's quote that it's like a PlayStation coach is controlling him from the sideline, right? Well, Ronaldinho played football like he was a FIFA player, because he literally did stuff that nobody else did. And
he did stuff that you think the other fucker that you're playing against online has a cheat code in. You know what I mean?
Well, like there was a point was made there by Barry Devaney about like street footballers and stuff like that, and it just reminded me of a point. I think Dunphy said it actually on RTE, one of the pundits, in case people don't know who he is, Spacer. He said, if you want great players, you need poverty. You won't, because they have the hunger. They've something to play for. They're fighting their whole lives, and that's where you get the great players from poverty, street footballers, etc., etc. So it is a fair point. In fairness,
Neilo, you want to jump in there, Paul?
I think Ronaldinho. Another way people say the best players make football look easy. I think that's kind of gets given. That's an injustice to him, isn't it? He made it look stupid. Like, he used to go out on the piss the night before and everything, like, and just turn up, and he was unbelievable. Did you ever see the picture? You might get it. It's on the internet somewhere. The night before, whatever, some Barcelona playing a match next day, and there's him in the hot tub at 5 boards. And it's the night before the match. I was one of them boards in the bikini. I had boobies.
But come here.
At every level, we've all played football at various levels, lads. There was always someone in your team. The best player was always a bit of a tearaway the night before the game, weren't they? Yeah. Like, it was always the fella that turned up with his boots in a plastic bag with no shin guards. You know what I mean? The good players never.
No, Andy, they were always the they were always the team's enigmas, right? So they were incredibly gifted but deeply flawed. Ronaldinho was that true blend of incredibly gifted but not deeply flawed. And what he did was he basically went and won every single trophy.
He was in Purdue jail without a passport.
But that's because of their weird passport system. It has nothing to do with his flaws. Like, he basically won everything. And then said, "That's me."
Did he start at Paris Saint-Germain?
Yep, and he started at PSG, and he was meant to go to. Do you remember he was meant to go to United? And he said he was meant to go to United. There was a deal agreed between United and his agents, and he turned around and he said, "I am never going to some cold place in England." Like that's why he just didn't want to play in the cold. He signed for Atletico Mineiro back in Brazil because it was close to the beaches, and he enjoyed the pubs alongside the beaches. So he was able to finish.
Just like Maradona taking over a Sinaloa. Same
like
thing.
Somebody said earlier, Maradona pisses all over Ronaldinho. I don't necessarily disagree with you, because Maradona to me was a freak. Again, it was another freak, right? But these players, Suarez is a freak. What did I say to you before we started this? I said Suarez to me is a throwback because he played football with his shins. Nobody has been better at controlling the ball with his shins. When I look at
Suarez a nutmeg mare made with a beach ball, Phil.
But it's true. It's true.
What about Joe Allen?
Yeah.
Joe Allen was sitting in the gas.
Well, yesterday.
They were the
Joe Allen was better than THIAGO until
he was leaving it over there saying, "Oh no, we can't remember."
But he went vegan. He went vegan, so it's his own fault.
Because he lost his teeth.
But if you look at players now, they're mentioning Sancho as being next, and I have to say I've watched Sancho, and he looks an absolutely smashing player when you see him play. He has that little bit of magic about him. But his next bit is to step up. Can he come back to the Premiership, or can he go to a different league and do it? And he hasn't won anything with Borussia Dortmund either. So this is the thing. These players, it's like the manager thing. The great managers just win trophies right the way through their career, or do something special right the way through their career. The greatest players do the exact same thing as well. And you don't have to be, Andy, the flip of this is also, you don't have to be the street footballer to be a phenomenally gifted footballer, because to me, one of my favourite players to watch and one of my favourite players to really enjoy is Thomas Muller off Bayern Munich, because he's not the street footballer. He's your classic system footballer, but what he is he's just that relentlessly brilliant
winner. He's a winner.
Winner and a cog in a machine. You're not a cog in a machine that we're always talking about. If you think of Klopp's is a machine that has enigmas and rogue parts, rogue cogs that do whatever they want to throw things into
furious parts.
Yeah. Right, so here's one for you, because you make a good show. I was trying to think of the opposite to your street footballer. So let's say we put 11, the best 11 street footballers you can think of against the best 11 system footballers in history. Who wins?
Well, if it's a fucking hooker competition, I know who wins.
You're gonna have some wonderful players on both teams. You're gonna have Jordan Henderson in the system footballer.
I don't even. But Andy, I don't even think Henderson gets into the system footballer, because I think what's going to happen is you're going to basically get the best German side of all time.
You're going to have Lothar Matthäus at the back
and Franz Beckenbauer.
And who do you have in goal?
Neuer.
No, because I put Neuer in the street footballers, because he was just
fair, He was Sepp Neuer or someone.
In a goal.
No, I'd go with Ali Khan as the system goal. And then it's a toss up between Schmeichel and Neuer as to who goes in for the street footballers, because both of them
up front.
Both of them changed how goalkeeping. But then you could have Chilavert or Campos. If you're really going to go for the street footballers,
you go Campos. Yeah,
Campos has to be your goalkeeper, and straight away that's your weakness, because that fella's going to be up taking free kicks and corners and penalties.
What was your man's name? Was it Rene Higuita?
Higuita, that's another one for the street football. But yeah, I would honestly go, if you think of street footballers, you're going to have the same thing. The problem you have with street footballers is defenders. You don't have many street defenders.
Yeah, well, the ones you have are just totally mad. Like
David Luiz,
exactly.
Any kind of goal scorer and
Lovren.
Centre backs who go wandering up the pitch, they're always loose cannon. But I think you'd nearly do a good hour of a podcast alone by picking an 11 street footballers and an 11 system players. So I think on the next international break we'll do that.
Good idea for a pod, Andy. That's a good idea.
That's just a forum night. We'll do best street footballers versus best system footballers for and not worry about topics, because nobody cares about international football.
You should have logged around, Andy. Someone else will rob that.
Right. So from one topic to another, Neilo, and I'm going to let you phrase it yourself again, because we'll make an absolute bollocks of it. What's your topic, Neilo?
I may have overstated it slightly, Andy, now with time to reflect on it.
Right.
What I was thinking was, hold on. The title of it, if it was a book, the title of it would be "Steal This Book, It's Free." I'm only messing. I've seen that on Netflix during the week. It would be the slow disintegration of modern football because of the lack of interaction from the common man. Right?
Want me to read it out?
There's 2 points on that, right?
Yeah.
There's 2 points. You have no fans at matches, which is what it is, and then 15 quid or 15 euros or whatever the fuck it is to watch the match there last week, right?
Mm.
Now, I didn't pay the 15 quid. Anyway, I'm about to get smoke in me eye. But what I will say is, what I will say, hold on, if you didn't see that. What I will say is, right, if you watch, it used to be a punishment, right, to have play your next match behind closed doors, yeah? That was a punishment. No one could see it, right? Because whatever the fuck it was. And the thing was, there'd be no fans there, no one would want to fucking see it, right? So now, for example, Nike have spent, I don't know, hundreds and hundreds of millions on Liverpool's short sponsorship deal, right? Now, for the foreseeable future, this could go on for regardless of political affiliations, whatever the fuck we're hearing, but just say this could go on for another year or two with no fans being in the stadiums for whatever reason it may be. Now, would you think, like, if that goes on for 2 or 3 years, right, all of a sudden the Premier League are missing out on a generation of kids are going to come through and support football because their product is shit.
Sorry, lads.
Feels open the fridge.
Put on his fucking camera and you can hear the fridge open. Oh my God. Neilo, go on.
Now, do you know what? Fuck this.
No. This is brilliant.
Anyway, what I'm saying is, right, so come here. So the product is intrinsically flawed nowadays because the spectacle is not what it is, right? I also think the product is being exposed for what it is because there's no fans there's no interaction. So all you're doing is looking at a training session for people who are so over fucking paid. And I think that there was a tangible link there between footballers and the man paying €1,000 for his season ticket. Now I think that link is so fucking tenuous that they realize. I think footballers as linked to the common man is exposed completely because all you're looking at is a training session by people who are generally massively overpaid for playing a fucking football match. I think. Do you know? Listen, I'll leave it there. I have a lot more.
No. Neilo, that's an excellent topic, and I feel bad about banning you off the podcast last week for your topic because it was probably going to be a great topic. And earlier on,
when I texted you last week, I was at to being up for like 24 hours nearly. I think.
Yeah.
I was at being driving a taxi. Honestly, I was fucking.
Yeah. Look, I think you make an excellent point there about the connection between fans. Look, I'm a real. You don't
think that the whole thing when you watch a match, it just feels like it's very hard to get involved, and it just feels vacuous. It feels like there's some distance, and it's not because of a virus or whatever the fuck it is. Because when it was Project Restart last time, it was listen, we're all getting back, we're all in it together, we're doing Zoom quizzes. This is great crack. You know what I mean? Now this time around, it's just a bag of shit.
There's something,
and they're out playing football and hugging each other and all that shit, right?
Yeah.
And but we're at home, and all we're hearing in the news is we're all going to be dead in a week.
Right.
Like, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to get too political about it, but footballers are grand, and come here, they're getting 200 grand a fucking week, but they're all fine and they're hugging each other, but we're all bollocks sitting at home.
I think you're right, Grant.
I mean, I can go on.
Oh, I know you can.
Oh, I can.
Come here. I agree with you. I think there's something very unnatural about watching football in empty stadiums. I can't watch it without the sound. I really can't. I'm just trying to convince myself that there's fans at the game. Put it this way: if football was a brand new thing and you stuck on your TV and it was 22 lads out there playing in an empty stadium, you'd never catch on. It's absolutely the fans who make it. I'm the biggest advocate for football without fans. There's nothing.
David Lennon has made a very salient point there at 11:03.
Neilo for president.
Thank you. What a country it would be, lads. What a country. Be amazing. Ronaldinho will be me second in command.
What's this? All right. There you go. Just for you.
There you go. Yeah.
No, like, look, it's only a temporary thing. I can live with it. I can live with it for another, whatever. See, just this season. But I think after that,
But my point, Andy, is right. Although it's temporary and it's not, maybe it'll be over. I don't know, in 3 or 4 months, stadiums will be full. Like, look at New Zealand. But do you not? My opinion is that I think football has been exposed for what it is, and the fact that football clubs go on about this link to the fans and all when they don't actually really give a shit.
I think the pay-per-view was showing that up big time. Yeah, you're a customer. The pay-per-view was showed that up for what it was
15 quid to watch a game of training.
15 quid, exactly, to watch a game of training. They don't give a shit. Leicester were the only club to vote against the putting the games on pay-per-view, which means even Liverpool, the team that we support, they're all, like, we had the Project Reese or the big picture stuff. You're just a customer, and they're trying to make as much money as they can out of it. That pay-per-view thing's at the fallen flat in its face now, because all 20 clubs are giving the money to the field banks now, so they're rowing back now at the next Premier League meeting. It's going to be, well, will we drop the price down, which is just as bad, because you're just basically saying, right, what price do we need to drop it down so these cunts will start buying it? And you're right, it is being exposed for what it is. There's a lot of money grabbing going on, Liverpool are included. It's a business. End of story, it's a business. And I don't know whether it'll ever go back to the days where you rock up and pay into the cop for fucking £5 or whatever, and you were there an hour early.
Is it coincidence? Can I jump in? Can I jump in for a match now, and there's no one in the stadium paying a few quid to watch the match? Is that a coincidence, or is that just completely just to rip these people off as best we can?
Can I jump in?
Go on, Phil.
Andy, I said 3-4 weeks ago on this pod, we were talking about the pay-per-view idea, and everyone was losing their shit about £15. And I said, when PS Now started and EA Games Access started, they both started at £20 or €20, whatever it was. And now EA Access is $3.99 and the PS Now is $9.95, right? And in terms of what's there, essentially, those things are brought to the level that people will buy in. So 15 quid always sounded expensive, and they benchmarked themselves off the Scottish Premier League. But the Scottish Premier League is very much a niche market. It's like Apple. Like, people who are mad Apple freaks buy Apple products every year, no matter what.
We're all looking at you, Andy.
No. It's not. Then the rest of the world buy Android products because they can change them and it doesn't cost them half the amount, even though now Samsung is trying to get into the same price point, whatever it is. So anyone that's watching the Scottish Premier League are watching it because there's only about 11 of them and they're happy to pay £10 per game, right? When it comes to the Premier League in England, it's such a diverse tributary of football and support at this point across the board. It seemed mad that you are going to charge 15 quid, especially when, if you go to Ireland, you can watch it on a channel for free. If you go to America, you can watch this on a channel for free. If you go to Canada, you watch it on a channel for free because that's part of your subscription. It was
and
never
you do all that for the comfort of your own home.
But Neil, this is the whole thing. When you've got if you have an already flawed model and then try to bring in a premium price point on a flawed model, it'd be like Apple trying to launch an iPhone that was basically just a Samsung with an Apple badge across it, because nobody would say, well, what's the point? I'll just buy the Samsung version. It's how Google's original devices failed. So you can't, once the genie's out of the bottle, you can't get the genie back into the bottle unless you use up your 3 wishes. And that's just the way it is at this moment in time. There's no point in trying to combat IPTV. There's no point in trying to bring in PPV. What they need is now, and this is why Liverpool has been battling for this project big picture, this European Super League that's there. They want, and this is what FSG want, they want the television rights. It has nothing to do about a European league. It has nothing to do with a better Premier League or sharing the tree. They want to own Liverpool's television rights solely, because then they can sell it on NESN, which is their own television network, as part of their package. So you get the Red Sox, you get the football, you get their IndyCar team, you get the whole lot, and you get all their matches to watch. And have a guess what? The fucking 100 million Liverpool fans that are out there would rather pay €8 a month to watch all the Liverpool matches, and just the Liverpool matches, than pay €20 a month to pay for a Sky Sports package to watch one Liverpool match a month.
But come here, Michael. Do you not think it's a coincidence? Do you not think it's a coincidence? Is it me just being I don't know, with a conspiracy theorist thinking that the 15 quid a match to watch Liverpool came in at the time when Liverpool aren't getting any revenue from home matches at Anfield.
It's not Liverpool, Neil. It's not Liverpool.
It's everybody. It's everybody.
This is what's
I know
going
it is,
on.
but it's not when nobody's getting any revenue from tickets from people coming through the turnstile and buying fucking hot dogs and bottles of fucking plastic Carlsberg.
Yeah, so
all of a sudden you have to pay 15 quid to watch Liverpool. So listen, I know yous are struggling and I know yous are at home and the people are at work or whatever the fuck it is, but here, come here, fuck you. We want 15 quid if you want to watch us.
But Neil, where this model is falling down is that that season ticket holders should be given immediate rights to watching the match. Okay, so if I'm regardless of whether it's on the television or not, if I own a season ticket to Liverpool, in the event that I can't see it in the stadium, because I've paid for my season ticket, most of the season tickets season ticket holders have, they should be entitled to watch those matches no matter what. They should be able to log into a part of the Liverpool website using their membership number and get immediate access to that game. Okay.
So would you pay 200 quid, extra 200 quid a season for your season ticket to watch every Liverpool match whenever the fuck you wanted to watch it?
Would I pay?
If for a season ticket holder, is it plausible to ask them to pay an extra 200 quid to have access into that part of the website and just watch every match?
In the current environment, they should, regardless. You're not asking them for extra money. They've paid their season ticket. They can't get into Anfield. To hold their season ticket, they had to pay for their season ticket this season. They should be given immediate access to those matches, regardless, right? Outside of that,
I agree with that. Actually, that's a point, Phil. Season ticket holders can't, if Liverpool weren't on the telly, have to pay the 15 quid to watch Liverpool.
this is my point, Neil. They shouldn't. They should have immediate access to the match. And Norwich were trialing this thing where, and this is the madness of the English system, right? You could go and watch the Norwich match in the stadium when they were playing away in the ground itself, right?
They pull the curtains,
and they had to pull the curtains, but you couldn't watch the match outside in the stands.
Just on that, I know we flipped a bit to the pay-per-view thing, and Phil, you think that if they drop down the price point, it'll save some face or something like that? I actually slightly disagree. Now, I do accept that if they drop the price point down, more people will buy it. I accept that.
Sorry, Dav, can just Andy, if we can block that JWoww fella immediately, right?
Who's he?
I don't know. Just block him.
I can't.
Get his address first. Get his address. I
don't give a fuck. But I slightly. I understand, Phil. You're saying when the price point comes down, you obviously will get. You will get more people buying it. Obviously, you will. But I just think, like what you're saying, the genie is out of the bottle. The clubs have been shown up for what they're doing. And look, we're obviously here on the Liverpool podcast. Fan media is huge now. It's bigger than it's ever been. And all these people pushing it to give your money to food banks, etc. At all the 20 league clubs that has kicked in, and it's really shown up the clubs. And I think that will keep going, even if they do drop it down to £5 or £7 or whatever they drop it down to. I can see it not catching on the way that they think it will, and that's a good thing.
So, Neilo, if you could do that, do you think it would make football more alive again?
If we could do what, Andy?
Made fans feel important. Cater for develop a pricing system, TV, and access to your football club. Develop something like that. Make us feel important again. It's not what it's about. I mean, making us feel.
It's just it's not so much wanting to feel important or wanting to feel part of it because you're paying 100 quid for the jersey, so they don't really give a shit about you. It's the fact that I don't know. Maybe I'm fucking old and antiquated in the way I'm thinking that football is.
I think it's success, isn't it? Success widens. That the more successful your club becomes, the wider that gap becomes between the fans, the common fan, and the club. And I think it keeps going wider. All the club are interested in is making money. You know yourself, or the three of us here, know that when Roy Hodgson was Liverpool manager, you'd have absolutely no problem getting a ticket. You rock up to a game, any game you wanted to go to, you get tickets for the game. There's no issues kind of that way. It's a lot more. It feels a lot more like homely and family.
I know what you're saying,
because the team is shit.
You know, like
as things spoil, get more successful, I think the gap just widens. It becomes harder to get tickets
so, you know,
for everybody.
Nowadays, you see the redevelopment in it, and it's much more welcoming. It's a better place to be, and all that shit. I think behind the facade of all that crap is it's a much better place to be, but it's also generated just to take every last cent out of your fucking pocket. I think there's a bit of it. There's a two-facedness to it. There's a dichotomy between football for the fans, but it's not football for fans. It's football to take the last fucking 10 cent out of your pocket for the fans. And maybe that's just the modern world we're living in. I don't fucking know. And
I think every club is.
I'm not blaming Liverpool. What I'm saying is football in general there's a massive disconnect for me.
Andy, I think Phil makes the best point there. Eventually you fall at what people are prepared to pay. You know, when you switch your assets to the point of absolute saturation, people get pissed off and they turn their back and they find something better to do with their time. That's what's going to happen. I think we sat here and slaughtered Sky over this, but it's really the clubs trying to make up for their loss of revenue.
Correct.
But people will eventually get pissed off, and people will turn their back on football. And I've never seen as much bad press about football as I have in the last kind of couple of weeks with this. It's really pissed people off. There is a lot of people struggling at the moment, in all seriousness, and there's also, you know, a lot of talk about the league moving to Europe. Something like that. But clubs really, really removing themselves from what we would consider grassroots.
I think that's my whole point, Andy, isn't it? That it's been like it was happened recently. Has just exposed it for what it really is. That's why there's so much chatter about it in the media, because it's been exposed for what it is. I think it's been kind of laid down bare, the disconnect between me sitting at home because I can't fucking work, the lads getting $500,000 a fucking week, hugging each other, playing football in a stadium that's fucking empty, which is fucking insane. It's mad, man.
And I think like what's like, I follow mostly Liverpool fans on Twitter, and what's most hurtful for us is like, this is the beginning of our golden era now. We feel like, you know, it's a chance we have to make up a few titles, get ahead of United, and pick up a few more European Cups as well. And the way things are going, all of that stuff seems to be becoming very much devalued.
The product as a spectacle is devalued because it doesn't have the same appeal. You don't feel the same attachment to it.
Yeah,
like, you don't feel part of it, do you? Oh, but I don't.
No, well, just on that, I was watching the Champions League, kind of the goal show on BT last week, and Rennes were in the French team. Was their first time in it, and they have Rennes. In France they've different regions are on different lockdowns, and Rennes could have fans. And there's 5,000 there, and I tell you, Andy, the difference watching the game or watching the goals going in when you could see 5. Now it looked like there's more than 5,000 there. I won't lie to you, it looked like there was more, but officially they have 5,000 there. And I tell you, the difference in looking at goals going in when like the fans are running them up, it just kind of makes your heart back. Like,
Dav, I think there's two bits to Neil's argument, and sorry Neil, sorry for jumping in terms of, because it is your topic, right? But like, there's a part of it that says that the product that's being sold at this moment in time, with the lack of fans, is a shit product, right? And that's just basically, if you look at a country with fans in the ground and you watch it on the television, I'd be much more prepared to spend money on something where I believe I'm getting a true reflection of the atmosphere and what's really good with fans in a stadium.
Like when I'm looking at the weekend.
When you see in Australia, fucking 50,000 people in the stadium. There's a thing put out by the Financial Times tonight. I know Stefan Mack was waiting for me to go into the coronavirus thing, but genuinely, right? You look at the lines that the Financial Times put out tonight about how certain parts of the world are handling the coronavirus thing, and this is why we have no fans in the stadiums. By the way, like, when it boils back down to this, is a societal problem. It's not just a football problem, right? And those countries have fans in the stadiums, have people in the stadiums, because why? They control the spread of a pandemic. We don't have it at the moment. Germany had fans in the stadium, a relative amount, up to 2 to 5 to 8,000, depending on what part of Germany you're in. They've had to cut back on that because of, again, a resurgent virus that's going on in their country at the moment. But ultimately, less people are going to spend money on a product that doesn't give them the feeling that they are part of what's in the stadium. If I wanted, at this moment in time, this fake noise from a crowd is disgusting. Like, and I'll go back.
Laughter in a fucking TV show. It's bollocks.
The night we watched the Chelsea game as a group of people in a pub, and they turned off the canned noise that night, and you could actually hear the 40 or 50 people that were in Anfield. It was still a better sound, even though there was no songs. Right, there was still a better sound than that fake pumped in soundtrack that they take from FIFA. Because it's so unnatural. There's no new songs. We know that if there was fans in the ground at the moment, there would be songs for Jota. That THIAGO song would have been bouncing around the crowds, but they don't have a recording of it, so they can't put it on the soundtrack that they have for the match. So it makes no sense. So that's a huge thing. Sorry, Andy. Just then the flip side is the only way you really sell a pay-per-view product is that if you have that true natural atmosphere, that people want to feel that when they are paying for something, that they are part of the atmosphere. When I pay to see a boxing match, I'm not paying to see a boxing ring and two lads get in, punch the head off each other, and not have the crowd baying for one side or the other side, because it's part of the event. When I turn on the American football, when I watched the Bears play the Panthers a couple of weeks ago, and they had 8,000 in the stadium in Carolina, or you put on the Kansas match and there's 20,000. So the difference between the games with no fans and the games with fans, it's huge.
Well, why do you go to a pub to watch the match and you can't even hear the commentary? Because you're part of something. You're all cheering and shouting at the fucking screen. It's
about the atmosphere. It's about that feeling that people want to be part of what's going on. And if that atmosphere isn't in the stadium, people feel detached from what's there. So
the most important point is, Phil, people aren't going to pay 100 quid for a fucking jersey then either if they're detached from it, if they don't feel part of it.
Would they, mate? Why? This is the whole thing. Every time you push people away, they will go. If you push people to the internet, they will find the cheapest means of achieving what they want. So if I'm being asked to pay 100 quid for a jersey, and I find a jersey that's 20 quid, that a Nike jersey that looks the exact same as the jersey that's 100 quid, I'm paying the 20 quid for the Nike jersey, because there's no point in something paying for the 100 quid for the Nike jersey. And I'm sorry, but that's just the way it is. And what people have already said it in the chats. I don't know who was there. I know Antoinette was said it. Somebody else said it. I think there was a Kerry or something that said it about, if you keep forcing people into these decisions, they will go for the cheapest option until you bring your price point down to a point that they're prepared to pay it. And when they ask about that, Kieran, good point. Anyone give a good guess when fans will be allowed in? Okay, so I'm going to give you my researched opinion as to where we end up with this. And it all depends on the distribution and the take-up of a vaccine. So if I'm going to be straight up with you, I do not believe that we will see fans, a full stadium, until somewhere around September next year. And that's assuming the vaccine is available by March.
Assuming that's correct, Phil.
That's right? A huge assumption.
Assuming that's correct. For how football, as how vacuous it is, how it's been exposed lately, does it recover from this, or has it been all laid bare for what it is? They're just trying to empty the last cent out of your pocket. Has it been exposed, or how long does it take to get back, or do we just all click back in part of it again?
We get
clicks back in.
They give in, and then we compromise, and we eventually end up paying what we can afford and shit like that. Anyway, we're pushing on time wise.
7 minutes.
You want to do 7 minutes more?
We'll do an hour and a half, and then we're done. Because if you want me to edit this before the Bears game kicks off at 12:15, that's the only chance you have. Go Bears!
Okay.
How about them Bears?
Okay, yeah, that sounds right. Well, what we'll do is we'll move on to the game tomorrow. And I asked the lads how you pronounce that team just before we came on there, and it's something along the lines of
Davo
Michelin.
Yeah, Michelin.
Yeah. So.
The Michelin man.
How do we fare out against these lads? Some predictions, please. Start with you, Neilo.
I've never heard of them before. They won at the weekend, apparently. I hope no one checks that out. I don't know. Absolutely no idea. I mean, are we at home or away?
We're at home.
We're at home. Empty Anfield. Big European night of empty Anfield.
It doesn't matter. Maybe have they to quarantine?
No.
So they didn't get here 2 weeks ago.
Neil, just give us a fucking prediction, will you?
Listen, I obviously don't know if there's that much fucking
but when you just say Yeah, I know. I'm very familiar with this team. I watched the Hungarian
Grand Prix.
Yes, Andy, you did research on this match recently. I've
No,
noticed.
you're so man. You've been sitting there watching the television right the way through this podcast because I can see the reflection on your face. It's like he's just there pretending.
me?
Part of it. Yeah.
No, that's a light behind me. The telly was on, but I wasn't watching it. It was Spurs and Burnley, Phil. It was not worth fucking looking at.
Imagine paying 15 quid for that.
Fuck that.
Andy, sorry, my prediction, yes, Liverpool 3-0.
Great stuff. Fair play to you. Davo.
I think I saw the goals in the Atalanta game. Atalanta scored a couple of decent strikes from outside the box. So like they didn't really, from the bits I've seen, I don't know whether they ripped them open much, but I go 4-1 Liverpool. I think we're still getting our shit together at the back. I think we might ship one 4-1.
Phil.
If we don't win, it's a disaster. Let's be honest about this, right? So, assuming that we're playing the lads that are probably going to play, Curtis Jones comes in, yeah, maybe. I don't disagree with you there. I think there was an interesting debate went on in the chat earlier on about should we stick with the shape. I think he will. Stick with the shape. I think he's going to give Minamino a go in this game.
Absolutely.
Right, so
yeah.
If we see something mad, I would love to see us get a couple of early goals and really go for the jugular. Just to get that confidence back into the team. Some lads are saying 5-0, 4-0. I would love to see that. Just, that real confidence instilling game. Like the one thing the last couple of games there's been that bit of a worry about what's going on. I just want to see it. I want to see us really, truly batter the bejesus out of somebody, and that's how it goes.
Good shout,
also,
good shout.
just so everyone knows in the chat, like I saw what went on earlier. Andy banned them. That there's no place. There is literally no place on this channel, on this podcast, with us as mates for racism in any way, shape, or form. I just want to say that, Andy, just out straight, that it's just not acceptable, and it will not be allowed in any way, shape, or form. And we can't be having it. I know there's 4 white blokes here. It's very easy for us to say this, but that's just it really pissed me off earlier on, and it's just. I hate that shit. It's just some little scumbag comes in and does that. I'm not even mentioning names because they don't deserve some airtime, but I can't be dealing with that.
So unfortunately,
YouTube's available to all sorts of kids, and I mean that was obviously some sort of kid acting a maggot. So look, he's banned now and won't be tolerated. The comments here every night. We know since we started the forum are fucking brilliant, and honestly, you just make the show, and as you do every other night with Gav, it's excellent. I feel extremely proud of how interactive of show we have, because we used to just sit in a studio, 3 or 4 of us, but to have that interaction, to have all them suggestions and all coming up in the chat's brilliant. So fair play to you for all coming along every night. 171 there at the moment. I couldn't really give a shit. It was only 21, but the involvement is deadly. Fair play to you. And anyone that wants to act a maggot's just going to get banned. We enjoy a bit of slagging, actually. A few times I've been reading the comments and I watch myself getting the piss ripped down me, especially when I'm back in FSG and slagging anyone who wants big.
What's his name? Stephen Hawking's young
Colin played centre half for Pats. Your mic is broken already. You shouldn't have bought one down in the Liberties. In fairness, you're starting to sound like a broken toy fighter.
We'll get Gav to drop you out. One of the new fancy ones we have.
Andy,
R2D2, Neilo.
Andy, can I also suggest, because we do enjoy the chat, we do enjoy the comments, from next week, what do you reckon? We'll do 4 topics and then a show. We'll pick a show from the comments to have a final, just a random discussion on the final chat. What do you reckon?
Yeah, sounds absolutely.
Yeah, that's cool.
I mean, like as well.
What do you think? What score do you think, Andy?
6-1.
6-1.
Yeah, I think we're going to go very attacking. He'll do something similar to he did Saturday, to kind of play as 2 natural midfielders and then play as 4 attacking players. Whether Curtis kind of makes up one of those, I don't know. But Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Come
Wanna
here.
take it
What?
You want to take us out with a song?
Yeah.
Like the end of the late show years ago.
But anyway, no, seriously, great show, Phil. Next week we'll go with a topic, and as well, keep in touch on Twitter as well, and make suggestions for our forum topics, because sometimes you're reckoning ahead on late on Sunday, and sometimes late on Monday trying to think of what you're. So if there's anything, we like to go with something a little bit off topic from the match, but just something that's kind of in the media, I suppose. So yeah, throw the topics, throw the suggestions on and at us on LFC Daytrippers on Twitter. Right, we'll leave it there, lads. What do you think?
Yes,
I think it is. Don't.
Well, I'll tell you just one more thing. I was listening to Scorn Not His Simplicity earlier on, and it made me cry.
Do you want to sing it?
She and I. No.
Go on.
The golden hair and eyes and they'll show the emptiness inside. My sister used to say me now
I'll
wrote
tell
that
you
about.
what, we'll
That looks vicious.
You can play us out, right? I'll unmute you when we put the outro thing on, yeah, and you can sing that song. You better start singing.
Andy, we're still live.
Right.
Yeah. Come here.
We're still live.
Oh, yeah.
Scorn Not His
This
Simplicity.
is like when you get brought back on stage for the encore, and everyone's going, "Oh, look, they're back out for an encore." Yeah.
I meant to say, Gav, I promised Gav would say, listen up, the pre-game show is on at 7 from tomorrow on Instagram, and then there'll be a post-match show on YouTube at 10, and then we have the Friday.
Up, what's the time?
And then we have the Friday forecast on Friday, which is, Jesus, will you shut up talking, lads? You're fucking gargled.
Right.
We're gone. Good luck. I've been your host, Andy. Thanks, Davo. Thanks, Phil. Thanks, Neilo. These are all characters. You're all mad. Good luck.